Welcome once again. This is Jennifer, and thank you so much for stopping by. So today is all about creating unique easel cards. Easel cards are a great way to make something different with the supplies you have. I've done a couple videos on this in the past. I'll link to it in the top right, and I got requests to create more. So today we're back with some unique ideas for you. We'll be creating different size easel cards, window easel cards, and much more. Let's start with this example, and it's best to look at the completed card first. Many of you requested 5x7 easel cards, so that's what I'm going to start with here. This is a fun easel card where the pattern on the front, the floral pattern, continues on the inside. So you just prop it up and it sits nicely on display. Now for this card, I'm using the Pinkfresh Wildflower Slimline stamp set. There are coordinating stencils and a coordinating die to go with this. I really like how Pinkfresh makes different products available that work well together or separately. So off screen, I heat emboss that large floral image several times. I'll be using one on this card, but saving the others for other cards. This one's silver heat emboss. The one on the left is gold sparkle heat embossed, and that's actually the one that I'll end up using for today's card. This long die should fit on your die cutting plates, but if it doesn't, you can run half of the die through your die cut machine, then run the other half through, and you'll be able to cut out the complete image. You could color this however you want, but I prefer to use the layering stencils that are available. It's a big time saver. I'm using a sticky mat to do so. I place the die cut and the negative space onto my sticky mat at one time. Then I'll remove the negative space. By doing it this way, I can be sure that my die cut isn't bent or warped a little bit off because I want the stencil to line up. So over that die cut, I'll place my first layering stencil, and the sticky mat will hold this in place and hold my die cut in place. I find this to be a big time saver. Now over this, I'll be applying different colors of Pinkfresh Studio dye ink. You can use absolutely whatever inks you want and whatever inking tools you want. It doesn't matter one bit. Once I'm done, I'll clean off the stencil with a dry cloth and then move on to the next stencil. So if you've never tried layering stencils to color in images like I'm doing here, it really is good for folks who struggle with coloring on their own. I'm one of those people. I struggle with coloring on my own, so these layering stencils are very helpful. But if you like to color, there's no need to try these. Just do your own coloring, whatever medium you want, it doesn't matter. So I'll continue to use the layering stencils to color in the different areas on this die cut. It's really easy to line them up and follow along. As I'm inking up over these stencils, I did want to mention, I know this is a very large image here, and those aren't very common with stamp sets that are out there today. If you want to do a similar card design, you could take a smaller flower branch and glue multiple die cuts together to create a long one like this, in case you want to try to recreate this card using supplies that you have. Once I'm done, look at this great image. It's super long, great for a slimline or 5x7 card. Now this one was just black pigment ink with clear embossing powder, so it's a black embossed look, but I created 3 others because I really like this image. The one that I chose to use on this card is this one that is gold sparkle embossing powder on the outline. And I did kind of a rainbow effect going from the bottom of the flower all the way to the top. You could ink these up however you want, but this is the one that I chose to use today. We can now create the 5x7 easel card. You can create a card like this and put whatever you want on it. So to create a 5x7 easel card, you need a piece of cardstock that is 5 inches wide and 10.5 inches long, and you'll score at 3.5 inches and fold along that score line. When you fold this, it'll be 5x7. This second piece is 5x7, and we'll score this in half at 3.5 inches. This will be the front of our easel card. However, I don't want to glue these 2 pieces together just yet. Instead, I thought I would add some texture to that front piece, the smaller one, the second one that we cut. To do so, I'm using a Pinkfresh Studio cover die called the Hexagon Tiles Coverplate die. This doesn't cut anything, it just makes little pierced patterns. So I'm holding this onto half of that piece, right up to the score line, and running it through my die cut machine. You can use whatever die cut machine you have. I'm using the Spellbinders Platinum 6. So we'll run this through just like we would with any die, but this time it's only going to create little pierced pattern, adding some interest to the background of our card. Now this isn't big enough to cut the entire card front, so we're only doing this portion, then we'll move it to the other side of the score line and do that portion. Because remember, this is a 5x7 cardstock piece folded in half. My cover plate die is smaller than that. So by doing each half at once, I'm able to cover the entire card front with this pattern. So if you have a bigger card, never fear, you can always double cut. All right, now I have a piece of Altenew double-sided adhesive, and I'm putting this along the flap on the other card piece that we created. Now you could use regular adhesive here, but this is a strong adhesive that will really hold against all that texture that we just put into the other card piece. I'm pressing that in place and then removing the release paper. Then we'll take the folded textured piece and line it right up into the corner, and this will form our easel card, and the front has all of that texture pattern added in. If you don't have a cover plate, you could definitely have stamped on that background instead. For sentiment, I'm using the Waffle Oversized Hello die. Now there are a few different dies available. There's the word die that says hello. Then there's a shadow die to go around it. Then there's a hot foil plate that says hello, and you can use the shadow die with that also. I decided to use the word die and the shadow die together. I cut the word hello from black glitter cardstock and the shadow die from gold glitter cardstock and glued it together. I thought this bold word would be great against this large easel card. So we have these two large intricate die cuts, the hello and the floral one. Instead of working with them as separate die cuts, I want to glue them together so they're connected. So I've hooked them together. You can see some flowers are tucked under the hello, and then I taped it there. Now I'm putting liquid adhesive along the back of this and gluing a plain white floral die cut. This will not only give it strength, but connect the hello to the floral image so that they work as one when we add them to the front of our easel card. I added another white die cut behind that. The stronger, the better. The more die cuts we build up, the stronger this will stand up. So I glued two behind it. I can then remove the tape from the front and make sure I have enough glue behind that hello die cut so that it's connected nicely with the floral die cut. These fine tip bottles really are helpful for that, and I'll link to the one that I use below. All right, so I'm putting something heavy on that while it dries, and now we can glue this to the front of our card. However, we only want to glue below the score line on the front of our card. So I'm putting glue only on the bottom half of this large die cut. Then I'll lay it onto the front of our card so it's only adhered below that score line. That way it'll function as an easel card. Once it's dry, you'll see how it's connected here, and we can trim the excess off that bottom there. I just use my scissors to cut right along the bottom. We also need a spot on the inside to prop our easel card up against. I decided to use a sentiment strip that is black with white heat embossing. I'm stacking up 3 pieces of cardstock behind that so it has some dimension, and then I'm gluing it onto a gold glitter cardstock piece that's slightly bigger. This will give me something with a bit of dimension that will be on the inside of the card that we can prop the easel card up against when it's open. So I'm putting glue on the back of that. It's 5 inches wide like the card, and I'm gluing it to the inside. So now you can see where the easel card will prop up against. You can write your personal message above that sentiment. So I cut off a bunch of the bottom of that flower on the front. So I thought I'd go ahead and glue that to the inside of the card below that sentiment strip. So when this is propped open, it looks like that big floral image continues to the inside. So here is the completed card. It's 5x7, so you can use a 5x7 envelope. I'll link to my source below. And when you open it, there is a spot there to write your personal message, but also that sentiment strip that you can prop the front of the card against to create an easel display. Here's a closer look at the gold sparkle heat embossing that I used for the flower outline and the black and gold glitter I used for the hello. I did add some Studio Katia gold sparkle crystals scattered along the background. That gold glitter matches the gold glitter embossing powder we used on the flower and the gold glitter cardstock we used on the back of the hello. So when you prop this up, that flower and the top of the hello sticks up, creating a great display. My next card is a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card. However, it has a clear window in the middle. So when you prop it up as an easel, it has that see-through element. Here's the completed card, and when you stand it up, you can see how that heart is floating through the window, and then there is a mini card on the inside. This is great anytime you want to create that window element on the front, and you can use it with any shape die. For this card and my next card, I'll be using products from the new Pinkfresh Studio Stained Glass Collection. There is a hot foil plate, a cover plate, and layering stencils that all work together or separately. For my first card, I'll use the hot foil plate and stencils. For the second card, I'll just use the die alone. Let's start with the hot foil plate. If you don't have a hot foil machine, you could use the die, which I'll show you on my next card. For the foiling, I'm using my Spellbinders Glimmer machine, which I've warmed up. I put the plate on the warm portion, then my hot foil face down onto it, then a piece of smooth white cardstock. Then we put our 2 plates on top and press the timer button. When the timer button stops flashing, I'll take all of those plates out and run it through my platinum die cut machine. If you have a different die cut machine, there are different foiling machines. All will work well with this hot foil plate. I will link to a video with more information on hot foiling up here on the top right. So after I've run this through my foil machine and my die cut machine to apply the pressure, look at this beautiful foil result. And remember, you can save this negative space piece for another project. But today I'm only using the outline on the white cardstock. I'm trimming right along the outside edge, so this will be about 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. Now it's time to add color to the openings. You could use any kind of coloring medium you want, but I'm using the coordinating layering stencils. I'm laying my hot foil piece onto my sticky mat and placing the stencil over it. Then my Brutus Monroe blending buddy, which is this kind of rectangle piece that goes around it. That allows me to add ink over my stencil without getting it all over the sticky mat. I thought I'd do kind of a rainbow effect across this stencil. I'm starting with a light green and I'll work my way across. When doing this, I recommend overlapping your colors. That will allow for easy blending. That is the key to really good blending, is using overlapping of colors and also a smooth cardstock. I used Hammermill cardstock to do the foiling, which works great with blending also, as you see me doing here. So I'm blending from a green to a teal to a blue to a purple and then to a pink. You could definitely use whatever inks you feel most comfortable with. I chose the Pinkfresh Studio inks today because the colors are beautiful. Once I'm done covering that, I'll wipe it with a dry cloth, then remove the blending buddy, which is that rectangle piece around it, and then remove the stencil. And you can see we have gorgeous results already. If you wanted to, you could leave this as is with those diamond shapes as white, but I'm using the other layering stencils in the set to add more color. I want the entire background to be color or that gold foil outline. So I'm lining this up on our sticky mat, and this time I'm using a smaller blending brush so I can do different colors in different areas. So between the purple and the blue on that blended background, I'm putting dark purple in the open diamonds. Between the blue and the teal, I'll put a dark blue between the open diamonds. And then finally, we have the teal and the green areas, and in the middle, I'll do this kind of bluish green color. When I'm done with that stencil, I'll remove it and add the third and final stencil, which does the smaller diamond areas. I'll apply ink over these. If you don't have a lot of different ink colors, you could definitely use markers or pencils to color in these areas. I did go back and add darker colors to those smaller diamonds. Once I'm done, I can remove my background from my sticky mat and look at that beautiful result. Now let's turn this into a window easel card that is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. So I'm starting with a note card that is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, top folding, just like I normally use. I will open that up and do a score line on one side at 2 3/4 inches. This is the halfway point on the front of the card. So I'll do a score line there and fold along this. This forms our traditional easel card. Now we need the front panel. This is cut to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And again, I'm scoring it right down the middle at 2 3/4 inches. We will assemble this in a moment, but first we need to create that front window panel. Remember, this one has a see-through oval window, so we need to die cut that window. I'm using an oval nesting set, which has different sizes of oval dies. I'm choosing one and cutting it right from the center of our ink panel. This ink panel I trimmed down to be 4 by 5 1/4 inches, slightly smaller than our note card. I'm temporarily taping that oval die right to the center, and I'll run it through our die cut machine. Now I'm taking this and tracing it right on top of our easel card. So this is the piece where we just scored it right in the front. Now I'll take a slightly larger oval die than the one we used before. This is the advantage of having nesting sets where there's lots of different sizes of the same shape. This one's a bit bigger. I'll tape that on the front of our note card, open it up, and run it through our die cut machine. By using a slightly larger oval, we don't have to line it up just right, but you could definitely use the same size if you wanted to. Next, I have 3 pieces of white cardstock that I'm going to cut to be a little bit smaller than that inked piece. In the center of these pieces, I will be die cutting an oval once again. The reason I'm doing this is so it'll have some stacked dimension behind our inked piece. I like that additional dimension, but you could skip it if you prefer. So I'll cut 3 pieces of white cardstock to have an oval in the center and be slightly smaller than our inked piece. These I can glue together and then glue behind our inked panel, and now this has some strength to it. Having strength to it is also good when you're making an easel card because it'll stand up and you don't want it to be floppy. To add this to the front of our easel, I'll put liquid adhesive on the bottom front flap of our easel. Then I'll add the front right onto it. We don't want to glue it to the top or it won't stand up as an easel. So I'm lining up my oval windows, have a nice white trim around the edge of it, and look at that, we have an easel window card. At this point, I was pretty excited about how it was turning out, but then I remembered I wanted a sentiment floating in the center of that window. So I need a piece of clear acetate to make that happen. So I'm carefully peeling off this inked piece on the front. It's okay to change your mind as you're going. Just be very careful as you pull your pieces apart. You could use a dental floss to kind of wiggle in there and pull them apart, but I'm just using my fingers here. This way I can add a piece of clear acetate there in the middle, which will allow me to have my sentiment floating. I'm using a piece of recycled material from some clear packaging, and I'm gluing that between the white oval on the front of our card and the inked oval that I'll glue on top. So now we have this clear panel between it. So when it stands up as an easel, there'll be this clear window where we can glue a sentiment. I'll be using a hot foiled sentiment from the Pinkfresh Studio Modern Script Sentiment Set. Now there is a stamp set, a coordinating die, and a hot foil plate. These are sold separately so you can choose what you want. If you don't have a foil machine, you could definitely use this stamp set. So I have the hot foil plate on my Glimmer machine. Then I'm putting Spellbinders foil on top of that, pretty side down. Then a piece of smooth white cardstock, the 2 plates, and I'll press the button. This applies the heat. When it's done, when the timer stops flashing, I can take all those plates out, run it through my die cut machine, and I'll have beautiful foiled sentiments. The nice thing about this particular set is it makes lots of foil sentiments at once, so I can save the rest for later on. Not only does the foil plate create lots of sentiments at once, but the coordinating die cuts them all out at once. And if you choose to use the stamp, it stamps them all at once, so you can use the coordinating die to cut them out. I like having the options. I chose You Are the Best for the front of this card, and I die cut 3 or 4 additional You Are the Best die cuts from white sentiment. I'll glue those behind my foiled sentiment so it has some dimension and stands out on the front of the card, but you definitely could skip this if you want. I'll now glue this stacked die cut onto the front of our acetate window. I'm saving one of those extra die cuts to be on the inside. So after I've glued that on the front, I have my extra die cut that I'm putting glue on the top of, and I'll line it up on the other side of the window so you don't see our glue on when you open up the card. So now we have this floating sentiment on the front of our window easel card. This was the point that I realized I need to have a place to write my personal message on the inside without it showing through to that window when it's closed. That's why I decided to put a mini card inside of this easel card. So I have a mini note card that I created here that's top folding. It is 4 by 5¼ inches, slightly smaller than our overall note card size. I'm putting glue on the back of that and then gluing it on the inside. That way I can put a personal greeting on the inside of this, and when they prop up the easel card, you won't see it, and you won't see it when the card is closed. I'm also taking a gold heart die cut and gluing it to the back of my sentiment. So this will allow me to hide something on the inside too. So stay tuned, you'll see in a moment. So now we have that gold showing through also. I did also add some gold baubles to the background just to make the gold stand out more. Now for the inside of the card, I'm taking 3 heart die cuts and gluing a gold one on top, and then I'm gluing on the foiled many thanks sentiment. This will be what's on the inside that allows you to prop up the easel card and put it on display. I want this gold heart on the inside to line up with the gold heart on the outside. Here's what I do. I put liquid adhesive on the back of this gold heart. Then I open up my card and I lay this heart onto the other one, lining it up. Once it's lined up, I can close my card on it, which grabs that adhesive. And now the gold heart on the front lines up with the gold heart on the inside. And then my easel card has something to prop up against when you put it on display. So let's look at the completed card. We have lots of gold foil on the front, along with those little gold gemstones, and lots of rainbow ink blending. We also have the window that shows through to the inside. And when you open up the card, there's a mini card on the inside where you can write your personal message without it being seen when the card is closed. You can also prop it up on the heart that's on the inside so that it sits on display nicely. So easel cards can be made with any products you have as long as you have an element on the inside that you can prop it up against. Okay, now we're on to our final card for today. In this case, I'm showing how to make an easel card where you have a background die cut that props up on display. All right, so here is the easel card. Just wanted to show you before we got started. That element there in the center that's very colorful and sparkly will prop up and stand as an easel card. I will be using the Pinkfresh stained glass window die that I showed you just on the last card for this background, but you could use any background die. So the overall size of this card is a little bit bigger than 4¼ by 5½ inches. Off screen, I used the Pinkfresh Studio stained glass background die and cut it from gold glitter cardstock. You can see that die cut to the left. I also have a piece of white cardstock that's slightly bigger that I covered with Altenew double-sided adhesive. I'm now laying that gold die cut right onto the adhesive, so everything white that you see here is exposed glue. I used the same background die to cut from different colors of cardstock, and I'm inlaying those tiny little cut pieces into the gold glitter outline piece. With this background die, this doesn't take very long. If you're interested in ways to make the die cut inlay process faster, which I'm doing here, I will link to a video on the top right. But in this case, it was easy to pop each of those in place. This will end up with a more graphic look, whereas the last example had a softer look because I did ink blending. It's nice that these products can be used in different ways. By the way, I wanted to mention if you have a hard time finding the colors of cardstock that you want, I recommend these memory box cardstock packs. They have multiple shades of the same color, and it's really helpful when you're looking for just the right color for your card. I used a few of these on this card, and I use them a lot in videos. Can't recommend those enough. They come in different color palettes. Now here I did inlay some blue pieces here in the center, but I decided they were too light, so I'm using a dark blue marker to make them a bit darker. Don't be afraid to change the color of your cardstock using markers or colored pencils or ink to make it work for what you want. So now I have this colorful background. I will trim that extra bit of white exposed adhesive on the outside edge, and we have a panel that is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. However, I want to put it on a larger note card, so there's that white trim around the outside edge, but still keep it an easel design. Here's how I did that. I have a piece of heavyweight cardstock that is 4 3/4 inches wide by 9 inches long, and I'm scoring this at 6 inches. I will then fold that over, and this will form the base of our easel card. Next, we need a piece of cardstock that is 3 3/4 inches by 5, and we're going to score that at 2.5. This will form the front of our easel card that will hold that pretty decorative piece that we've created up there on the top right. So now I'll put liquid adhesive on the back of the top of this flap. So I'll put adhesive right here on the back above that score line, and then glue it onto the flap of our easel card. So this is a little bit smaller, which allows our decorative piece over there to the right to kind of float on the front of the easel card. All right, so now I'll put liquid adhesive under the score line on the bottom of this flap. You could use any kind of adhesive here that is strong. And now we can lay this right there on the center of our easel card. So now we have this background decorative piece that will form an easel, but we have that nice white trim to it. So there are many ways you can make easel cards. Between this video and my previous ones, there are lots of options. Now let's finish off the front of the card. I added a white butterfly with a simple sentiment. This white butterfly is made from a layering die set from Poppy Stamps, but I cut all the layers from white cardstock and glued it together and glued it at the top center of our card front. On our last card, we created a mini note card to go on the inside to hide our personal greeting, and I really liked that idea, so I created another here. This is slightly smaller than our main card. This is about 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. I used my T-ruler to make a line of adhesive right across the center of this little mini note card, and into that adhesive, I'm laying a piece of gold glitter cardstock. This is just a thin strip that will form as a decorative element on this inside card. Onto this, I will add another Poppy Stamps butterfly that's a little bit smaller, but you could use the same one if you wanted to. And again, I created it using layers of white cardstock. I also added a sentiment strip over that. Now my sentiments for this card are from the Altenew Build a Garden Tulip and Friends stamp set. This is one of my favorites. I used it in a video recently. I'll be using it a lot more in videos. For my sentiments, I white heat embossed on black cardstock. Now this little mini card, I can glue inside of my main card, just centering it up there. So now this will be hidden when the card is closed, but when the card is opened, it'll serve as a prop to hold up the front. Our final card is about 4 3/4 inches wide by 6 inches tall, which is a little bit bigger than the typical A2 card size that I make. That's okay, I can just mail it in a 5x7 envelope, which does not require any more postage than normal. So here you can see how there's a little card in the inside that opens up for the personal greeting, but there's the butterfly on the inside that acts as a prop to hold that easel card up for display. So this particular design and size works great if you have a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch background die that you want to create as a focal point on the front of your easel card. So I hope that this video encourages you to try easel cards. This is a great way to create a unique card design that is great to put on display and can use whatever products you have. I will link to the products that I used in my description below. And at the end here, I'll link to a few other easel card videos if you're looking for more inspiration. I thank you for spending this time with me. I'll see you again soon, and you have a wonderful day.